What's up everybody, I'm Vick Almighty. Welcome back to the Rejuvenator channel. A couple of weeks ago, I worked on a size 17 custom for Kevin Durant, making it the biggest sneaker I've ever worked on the channel. This week, I'm gonna be working on the oldest sneaker I've done on the Rejuvenator channel. These are the Nike Studio 54 Night Tracks from 1978. Studio 54 was a legendary nightclub back in the 70s. A Nike sales manager used to go to the club all the time. He wanted to create a sneaker that was suitable for dancing. So what Nike did was they took the LDV model and gave it a twist. The result was a slick bottom with a sparkly design, perfect for the dance floor. Now this sneaker is extremely rare, old, with a ton of history. Throughout this restoration, I'm gonna be very careful. The key to this one is keeping it as original as possible. It contains all the original parts, the tongue, the insole, and even the shoelaces. It's really rare to come by a shoe just like this. It's gonna be a fun one, so let's get started. For this restoration, I'm gonna be doing a few different things. The first one being is a gentle deep clean all around the uppers, midsoles, and the soles. I also want to give it a reglue. On the left sneaker, as you can see, it's in 3 different pieces. You got the upper, the midsole, and the sole. Before I can even apply new glue, all the old glue on the top, bottom, uppers, and the soles gotta come off. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. On the opposite sneaker, it's still intact. I'm gonna go ahead and peel everything apart. This should sound satisfying. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty impressed with how good this glue still is. This glue's from 1978, about 47 years. That's pretty impressive. Nowadays, glue from like 10 years ago peels right off. Nike, whatever you're doing, go back to the old glue. So far, so good. I got everything in pieces. Now, I wanna keep this sneaker as original as possible. Part of me really wanted to go in on this restoration. For example, on the back, you have the Nike text. I really wanted to create the perfect stencil, apply it, and lay down the paint to make that perfect, but it's not gonna come out quite the same like they did back in the day, so I don't think that part is worth touching. The tongues, same exact thing. At one point, there was a lot more structure to it. The foam that was in between these 2 layers of material is completely gone. It's turned into dust. The dust is inside the sneaker. You can still see it. What I thought about doing was carefully removing the tongue, removing both pieces of the material, going in with some new foam, putting it in between the material, sewing it back together, sewing it back onto the shoe. I know I can do it. The thing is, I think it's kind of pushing it for this restoration. I want to keep it as original as possible, and I think with doing those 2 steps, it would be doing way too much. Now, with all that being said, before I could get onto the cleaning process, I'm gonna go next door and use the compressor. Like I mentioned, on the inside, it's covered with 47 years worth of dust and foam. I'm for sure gonna put on a mask when I do this step. All of this stuff's gotta be harmful. Let's go. For now, I'm just gonna be focusing on the midsoles and the soles. 2 things need to happen. I gotta remove all the old glue, but before all that, I gotta give these soles and especially these midsoles a good deep clean. As you can see, in the 47 years these shoes have been around, I don't think they've ever been cleaned up once. All that grime and dirt is trapped inside that foam. I'm hoping these will go back to white. At the same time, oxidation has probably got to these midsoles, so the real color is probably cream. We'll see once we get it all cleaned up. For this one, I'm gonna be relying on our Rejuvenator solution and our stiff bristle brush. I'm confident between these 2 products, I can get these looking new again. You can find these 2 products and everything else at rejuvenator.com. Let's get to it. 2 squirts is all you need, mix in a bowl of water. Now to get these midsoles as clean as possible, I'm going to be applying a lot of pressure as I use this brush. I'm sure you guys are wondering what these black marks are on the sole. Back in the day, the dancers at Studio 54 would be dancing all night. When it was time for a break, they would go outside, smoke a cigarette. When they would put it out, they would use their right foot to crush it. After that cleaning, these midsoles look so much better. I want to point out that the top portion of the midsole has a cream tint to it. The bottom is a little pink red. I'm pretty sure that's due to the sole. There's some bleeding that happened at some point. During that process, I was able to remove the dye from the midsole. I also got all the old glue off. Here's a quick comparison. Big difference. Now to get all that gunk and old glue off, I use PGR for this process. This stuff works amazing. It removes old paint and glue. All I did was apply it onto the top portion of the midsole and bottom, let it sit for about 30 seconds to a minute, then I grabbed an old towel and wiped it all off. If you need some of this stuff, head over to sneakerdoc.com. One thing to note though, this stuff burns if you get on your skin, so make sure you wear gloves. Thanks to the PGR, I got the majority of the glue off the sole and the outsole. Now to finish the job, I gotta use some acetone and cotton balls to give it the final wipe down. All clean and prepped. The last step I'm gonna do before I wrap up this day, I'm gonna try to remove the yellowing from the foam. Typically, I remove oxidation from rubber or clear outsoles using our Rejuvenator Survive. I'm hoping I can do the same on these foam midsoles. I'm gonna apply a thin coat on both sides, then put them in the Vick 2000. Next step in this restoration are these outsoles. Considering how old they are, they're actually in really good condition. When they were brand new out of the box, this had a nice, super smooth, high gloss finish. At the moment, they're pretty dull. I think I have a solution for this problem. I've never done this on a pair of sneakers, but I think it should work. This is all stuff that I have from other projects outside of sneakers. I got a heavy cut compound, medium cut compound, with a super finish plus. Between these three compounds, I should be able to remove the deep scratches all around the outsole and give it a nice high gloss finish. Using also this buffer. This is something I've never used on a pair of sneakers. I wish I had a smaller one. I just don't do this step very often. I think I'm gonna have to duct tape these outsoles onto the mat. That way when I'm using the buffer, the soles don't go flying everywhere. I'm all done with the soles. That process didn't really do much to remove the scratches. One thing I learned is you really can't remove scratches from rubber. You can only do so on plastic. The stuff that I use is meant for plastic, not rubber. That's why there was not much of a difference. It does look a little bit better, but not perfect. I'll come back to those later. For now, I'm just gonna focus on the uppers. The one thing I cannot do is scrub too hard on the silver material. In some areas, it's already fading. If I grab a brush and solution with water and I start scrubbing at the material, there's a good chance all of that's gonna flake right off. So what I'm gonna do is grab a dry brush and just carefully dry brush the entire sneaker. The brush that I'm gonna be using has silky, dense bristles, so I know for a fact it's not gonna damage any of the material on the upper. Studio 54 was a world famous nightclub in New York City, known for its wild parties, celebrity guests. It opened in 1977 by Steve Robel and Ian Schrager. It was located on 254 West 54th Street, Manhattan. Famous people like Andy Warhol, Diana Ross, Mick Jagger, and even Michael Jackson used to be regulars at the nightclub. By the time 1980 came around, they had to close down due to legal troubles. But its legacy lives on in fashion, film, and pop culture as the ultimate party spot of its time. To continue the restoration on the uppers, I'm gonna grab a steamer to carefully remove some of the creasing on the uppers, specifically on that leather panel where the laces go. I'm gonna try to remove some of the creasing on the side panel as well. There's only so much you can do. I'm gonna put on some gloves because the steamer gets extremely hot. Before I get this step going, let me show you a side-by-side comparison. On this side, I already took care of it with the steamer. This is the before. Thanks to the steamer, the upper has better structure to it, specifically on this panel and even the tongue. On the opposite, it's bent out of shape. Let's take care of that. Much better. A lot more structure to the upper. Next, I gotta take care of this deep scratch on the toe cap area. Some of the leather's hanging off, so I'm gonna grab a sharp blade, slice it off. Afterwards, I'm gonna try to fill it with some Angel's leather filler. I'm gonna lay down a little dab of it, let it dry for a good 24 hours. Tomorrow, I'll go in with a little bit of sandpaper to blend it in with the rest of the leather. Since the leather filler's on there, it's kind of fresh. I can't do much with the uppers since it's still curing. In the meantime, I'm just gonna put these shoes inside the indoor setup, mainly because of these tongues. I'm trying to remove as much of the yellowing as possible. In reality, I doubt any of it's gonna come out, but it's worth a shot. I'm gonna leave them in there for a good 24 hours. Tomorrow, I'll pull them out. The sneakers are rare, but to find the shoes with the original laces is even more rare. So I gotta be very careful with these laces. They're extremely old. If I tug on them, there's a good chance that they can rip. I'm gonna use this bowl of water, a Rejuvenator 4-ounce bottle of solution. I'm gonna squirt 2 squirts, give it a good scrub, let the shoelace sit for a good 24 hours. Hopefully when I take them out, they look a little bit better. Day number 3 on this restoration. So far, they're looking good. I got the sneakers out of the Vick 2000. Overall, they do look about the same, but it was worth trying. Now, one of the biggest issues on these uppers is the leather. Originally, I wanted to keep the shoe as original as possible. That meant not painting the sneaker. However, just looking at the sneaker, the orange blemishes all around the leather stand out way too much. There's supposed to be a nice clean silver finish all around. If you look at this sneaker brand new, it's supposed to have a perfect silver finish all around. So what I think I'm gonna do is touch it up with some silver paint. The key is to not try to make the shoe look perfect. I'm not trying to cake the paint onto the sneaker and trying to make it look brand new. It's just not gonna work, and it's gonna look obvious that I tried painting the sneaker. What I really wanna do with this paint job is make sure the paint job is on point. I also don't wanna get any paint on the leather edge or on the stitching. Those are two dead giveaways when the shoe's been repainted. To make this a lot easier, I'm gonna tape this off in sections. For example, I'm gonna tape off everything but the toe cap pieces. Take care of those with some paint. Once those areas are done, I'll move on to this piece and then the back. I'm gonna be using blue tape for this process. It has less adhesive. Unfortunately, I do have to cover up the silver fabric. There's a good chance some of that silver is gonna come off. I'm hoping not too much. When I apply the tape, I'm not gonna apply too much pressure. Before I start taping and painting, I'm gonna use some alcohol prep pads. I'm just gonna go over the entire leather. Now, there is a few celebrities that were given these Studio 54 night tracks back in the day. A few images that I was able to find was one of Michael Jackson wearing them, another one with Mr. T, and the last one, David Hasselhoff. Paint job is good to go. On this one, I'm really excited on how it turned out. One thing I don't really like doing is painting old sneakers. Sometimes it comes out looking factory where you can't even tell it's been done. Most of the time though, it's really obvious when the shoe's been painted. In this case right here, the color match is spot on. I also did a good job of leaving all the edges exposed so you still have that orange tint, making it look original as possible. The stitching isn't caked on. Going back to the color mix, these are the three colors I used, all metallic tones to create the exact color match. I started off with silver. It was way too dark, so I added metallic white to lighten it up. The shoe is on the older side, so there is some oxidation on the silver, so that's why I added some solid gold. All I needed was a couple of drops. So far, the upper is looking really good. This is one step that I'm really glad I did. I almost didn't do it because I didn't want to overdo it, but that orange was looking pretty ugly. Now for the details, this shoe has a lot of fraying, more than I've seen on any sneaker, all around the inside and the tongue. I'm gonna spend my time with some scissors and remove all those threads. Once it's all removed, I'm gonna grab a lighter to seal it. All right, much better. This restoration's only getting better. I'm done with the uppers for now. Check out these near brand new 1978 laces. These look almost brand new. I didn't think they were gonna get much better. Originally, they were pretty dingy, creamy looking. Now, the silver is vibrant and the white stitching all in between is back to white. Check out this dirty, grimy water though. That originally was clear. I just let the shoelace sit for a good 24 hours. I gave them a quick scrub, let them sit. All of that grime and dirt was sitting in those laces for the last 40 plus years. The only reason I say this was to show you guys. Now the laces are clean, they're good to go. At the moment though, they're pretty wrinkled and creased up. I wanna get them perfectly flat. I'm gonna be using an iron with the low heat setting. I've never actually ironed these specific laces. The last thing I wanna do is burn the metallic thread. So I'm gonna be very careful at first, make sure nothing happens. I'm also gonna be using some parchment paper. I'm gonna place this stuff over the lace. That way, the iron isn't in direct contact with the lace and potentially burning it. Uppers are about 90% there. We'll come back to them in a bit. In the meantime, we gotta finish up the prep work before we can lay down some glue. On the bottom, I gotta hit it with the Dremel with the 60 grit sanding bit. All I wanna do is remove all the old glue and roughen up the material before I can lay down the glue. All the old glue is fully shaved off the uppers. With that step being done, it's time to lay down a bunch of glue. As always, I'm gonna be using some bar super stick. I'm gonna lay it down on both sides of the midsoles. I'm also gonna be laying it down on the outsoles and on the uppers. Once everything's fully laid down, I'm gonna let everything cure for a few hours and then we'll carefully stick everything together. glue is fully cured. In order to activate the glue, I gotta heat it up. I'm gonna start off with the midsole and the sole. Gotta make sure everything lines up perfectly. There can be no mistakes. I'm gonna start with the back. Make sure everything centers perfectly. Make sure there's no gaps anywhere. Once I feel confident, I'm gonna heat up this section, bond it together, and take care of the rest. So far so good. Sole is on the midsole, lined up perfectly. It's all cooled down now. Let's move on to the upper. I'm gonna start off with the front, start doing the sides, eventually work my way to the back. Glue job is fully complete on these 1978 Studio 54 night tracks. This is what I like to call a day and night restoration. For being almost 50 years old, they're in really great shape. The rubber on the outsoles is still fully flexible. Same thing with the midsoles. The upper, same thing. The leather is still really flexible and soft. Same thing with the rest of the materials. There's still a lot of life in them. As far as this restoration goes, my main concern was keeping it as original as possible. The glue job came out perfect, no issues with that. The one thing I was concerned about this restoration was the paint job. I don't like painting OG sneakers. Sometimes it's very obvious. In this case, it needed it pretty bad. The color match came out on point. The stitching all around looks really clean also. It doesn't look caked on with paint. All in all, the paint job is extremely smooth. You can't even tell this shoe has been painted. Again, I'm really happy with how this restoration turned out. Now, before I put these away with the rest of my collection, I'm gonna grab a Rejuvenator mink oil, spray it all around the sneakers. I want to keep the leather nice, soft, and conditioned. So I'm gonna spray our mink oil all around the sneakers, let it sit, and it should do the trick. This restoration is good to go. You can find all our products at rejuvenator.com. Use promo code STUDIO54 to save 20% off your next order. This is Vick Almighty. I'll catch you guys on Monday. See you guys.